Thank you for joining I Am Possible, which is India's first future tech meets sustainability podcast. And today I'm delighted and honored to have with me Mr. Suyash Sumaroo, who's the founder of Codevigor, Horizon Africa Blockchain Network, Sako Capital, and he's also the CTO at Loot NFT. So Suyash, it's a complete pleasure and honor to have you on the podcast. Really appreciate you taking time and being part of the show. It would be great for starters to kind of set base, and kind of make people understand what blockchain is and what cryptocurrency is.
Thank you for having me here. So for me, blockchain is not only a technology. When I talk about blockchain, it's blockchain and cryptocurrencies because these two are inseparable for me. They are two different things, yes, but one can't exist without the other. Blockchain for me is not only a technology, but it's a way of doing things. It's a way of thinking. So we live in a world where right now everything is centralized. When we talk about your data, when you talk about your financial, let's say even your financial kind of power or your financial abilities or anything that you want to do, even our democratic system is very centralized. And that's the way we have been brought up to understand things. And when there's an alternative, an evolution or something, it's really a kind of a new paradigm shift, which brings forward something opposite. Okay, now we have completely centralized systems. What if you could have decentralized systems? Okay, so I think that's the most important thing in blockchain technology, decentralization. So this creates new ways of thinking, and what's interesting is that if people understand this, it can create a lot of opportunities. And this is what happened here in Mauritius. For me, I mean, my company is a very small company with 8 people. That's a startup, yes, but it's very small. But with the use of the technology, we have kind of changed our focus and changed our way of working. It's no longer, okay, just run towards making money, making both and meets or things like that. It's not even that. It's more about, okay, we have this huge array of opportunities. How can we make it work, use our resources, our knowledge, our time to make it in a way that we create things that are useful, actually very useful and very different. For me, it's just one word for me. It's choice. It creates a system where you have a choice, and that choice is not defined by any kind of law or any regulations, or the fact that, as you mentioned, it's not limited to any specific region or country. And one such example is Bitcoin, for example. So Bitcoin is and kind of an international currency, borderless. It doesn't matter where you are, what you do. It doesn't ask for KYC documents. It's a very open and very inclusive system. So that's from a user perspective. And for me, the thing that it brings forward is choice. So now people have choice, and we're talking choice about, especially in the, in the financial sector, when we're talking about currencies and things like that. But with new systems being added, like decentralized autonomous organizations, now we're talking choices, different choices for conducting businesses. So these are the things I think that, for me personally, stand out with blockchain and cryptocurrencies.
Obviously, the promise of blockchain seems super exciting, because it is that technology which will help us break away from the shackles of the centralized world, taking us to a decentralized world, making things possibly transparent, because so far everything works in an extremely opaque manner. Codevigor, what does it do? And also, while you're at it, maybe you can also talk about Horizon Africa Blockchain Network.
We have kind of 2 branches internally. One branch, of course, is to generate revenue, and the second branch is to create our own projects, our own SaaS based software, where we offer to clients, both nationally, in Mauritius, and internationally. So this is so in 2016 we started working on blockchain. So we offered blockchain services as well as developing our own blockchain applications, and we launched our first blockchain application in 2016, which was the first commercial blockchain application aimed towards the financial sector in Mauritius. So from them on, we continued our journey, and in 2018 we set up Horizon Africa. So the aim of Horizon Africa was really simple. We saw that we hear a lot about blockchain development and cryptocurrencies in very developed countries. You hear very little about blockchain in African countries. And it's not that people here don't have the expertise or the knowledge of these technologies. It's just that there isn't much, concrete things that are being done. That's number one. But there's not enough, interest and spotlight on these people or these companies. So the aim of Horizon Africa was to create kind of a community um, and help people actually start their blockchain journey, be it an individual, be it a company, or even governments. So this is the vision that we have for Horizon Africa, and we set up our own blockchain. And the aim of setting up our own blockchain was not really to compete with Ethereum, or and it's actually Ethereum based. So it wasn't a way to compete with these blockchains. We didn't do any ICO, we didn't raise any capital. The aim was really to say, look, you're a student, you're an entrepreneur, you want to start your blockchain journey, join Horizon Africa, start development on it. No more talkings, no more seminars. Just get to the stuff that matters. So we start building software, and we are kind of biased towards that because we're software engineers, and the only way we understand things is by doing things. So this is what we're trying to bring forward with Horizon Africa. Maybe hopefully people will know more about what African countries are doing or developing in terms of blockchain applications and so on. So that was Horizon Africa, and then recently we started on a project called Loot NFT. So that's a project very focused on NFTs. So it's been less than a year. The good thing about that is, and I think that touches upon an earlier point that you made about the number of inhabitants in Mauritius, which is 1.3 million. So this is a project that touches everyone, because it's a project that was launched internationally. But the interesting thing is that we started with Mauritian artists. So Mauritian artists could actually, list their work on Loot NFT, which is a very curated platform. We don't, take anything or everything. It's very curated, but we try to open it up for a lot of Mauritian entrepreneurs. And the good thing is that we practically changed the lives of a lot of these artists. I mean, for example, in Mauritius, an artist could sell a piece for, 3,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees, and that's a lot of money for them. We had Mauritian artists selling their art for 600,000 rupees, 700,000 rupees. I mean, I think that was the highest crossing, art piece that was sold, probably on Mauritian soil, for, kind of unknown artists. So these are things that become now very interesting and very concrete. We are using blockchain and cryptocurrencies and NFTs to actually change the lives of people. And we hope to do that more. We are expanding, of course, the countries as well. We have a lot of international artists as well. But I think that it shows very clearly that if we get the right tech blockchain, we get the right team, we get the right idea at the right time, then and like any other kind of project or company, this can go very, very far.
Yes, I'm very excited for the space of NFTs, because I guess once the Web 3.0 metaverse layer kind of really matures, I think the base economical layer would be NFT. And yes, I mean, for artists, globally, I mean, it will be such a fantastic way to not just showcasing, but also finally making money of their art, because artists, they always get fleeced. So again, I mean, could you kind of explain what non-fungible tokens are, because there's a lot of haziness, and do talk to us about what's the craziness that's going on in the NFT world, because there I've seen these scribble NFTs which is selling for a bomb. So maybe address the craziness of an NFT and explain what NFT is and how does it work.
Sure. I mean, I think there are multiple aspects to this question. So the first thing is about all this craziness happening in the NFT space, all this hype. I mean, this is not something like new to NFTs. This happened with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and many of these altcoins that were introduced in the last few years. It's not something new, but I think as anything else, it attracts a lot of attention. For me, NFTs, yes, they are kind of a very base technology. So it just means that you could use blockchain to represent something unique in the blockchain space. It could be a physical, it could be a digital thing, and that's just the start. And I think a lot of people just stop at this point and say, okay, we have something unique, let's spend money to have it, and let's get that exclusive right to own something which is unique. And that's good, that's fine, but that's only the first layer. That's the very basic layer. It's like Bitcoin. You set a Bitcoin, and that's the first layer. Now, what you can do is build on top of that. So this is where you can actually build metaverses, where you can actually, create new system where online worlds where everything is kind of an NFT, when you can transfer this NFT from one person to another. Where these NFTs are special NFTs in the sense that they're not only unique, but they have other advantages attached to it. For example, you could have revenue-bearing NFTs, and these are one of the things that we have on Loot NFT is that an NFT is not only an NFT, but it allows you to do other things as well. It could allow you to generate revenue within a metaverse, of course. So we can add anything we want, and it's just limited in terms of what we really want to do. But right now, a lot of people are focusing on, okay, you set up a platform, you have the NFTs, you just sell it, and that's it. And one of the other ways, NFTs and artists, could become really relevant in what startups are doing is in terms of fundraising, raising capital. Raising capital has been very orthodox. So you get an angel investor, or you get seed funding, Series A, Series B, and eventually there was the ICO craze, which of course died down. But now imagine this. Imagine if in the future, as a startup, you are in a country where it's very difficult to raise funds, but you could actually partner with an artist, hopefully a well-known artist, because he or she might have that following, and generate NFTs and use these NFTs as a way to raise funds. So now artists become kind of these venture capitalists, but they don't have the funds, of course, but they have the talent, which you can leverage to actually raise funds. And when we talk about these things, we are talking about startups which need probably 10,000 USD, 20,000 USD, which is a lot of money for them, or especially in underdeveloped countries. So for them, if this is a viable way of raising capital, then that's perfect for them. I think that these are the things that can be used with NFTs, that can be added as layers on top of NFTs to make it more interesting. But again, it's just limited to what we can do, we can think of in terms of NFTs.
Yeah, early in the course of conversation, you mentioned Codevigor. You are nudging students to, rather than these conferences and seminars, you asking them to get their hands dirty and build. And I guess that's the only way you can accelerate innovation. Now, since you mentioned that you through Codevigor you build solutions and you build in-house SaaS solutions also, would you like to talk about some protocols or platforms that you have built or your team has built, which you are really proud of. And what are the blockchain application currently that you see, you think is creating like a really deep social impact?
But I think that the project that had the greatest impact would be by far Loot NFT, the NFT platform, because again, it allows people to actually start using something that is, you know, traditionally very far from their reach. When we talk about blockchains, NFTs, and mergers, there's a lot of gap in terms of knowledge. So you have, of course, there's a group of people who are traders who want to invest in cryptos and things like that. But and it doesn't go more than that. But what we have right now in terms of the platform is like it attracts a lot of people from people who are interested in investing, or people who are interested in learning more about the technology. So we kind of creating this community where everyone is helping each other in some way or another. There might be some competition between people or different groups of people, but what we're doing is create this community, and that comes also from what we have done in terms of Horizon Africa. So basically, what happened is that we had the document management system, blockchain based document management system. We had Horizon Africa, and then based on these two usages, we had Loot NFT. So it all kind of converged within the same kind of mission. So what's happening right now is that we are educating people about how to use blockchain and cryptocurrency, and I think that's very important. We know a lot of cases where we had scammers in Mauritius. I know a lot of people who have lost a lot of money simply because they wanted to invest in Bitcoin and they lost 5,000 rupees, 10,000 rupees, and that's a lot of money for them. And we actually work with the Financial Services Commission in Mauritius, which is the financial regulator, to try to spot these scams and try to close them down as soon as possible before they reach a lot of people. So I think that it's a very concerted effort that is done not only from me, but from also other members of the team, which help in educating people, but which also do some things, more concrete things like stopping scams, helping regulators, and so on. So I think that there's still a lot to be done. Okay, but baby steps are very important. At least we're doing something concrete. And again, it revolves around one theme, is like doing something concrete. So no more talks, no more conferences, doing something concrete to actually help the community.
Right, yeah, exactly. There is so much that can be done to create an ecosystem which is sustainable. Like you mentioned, I mean, raising awareness, I think is the key. How do you make the knowledge easily accessible to students or enterprise, and make them realize that this technology can actually add real world benefits now? And even with the cryptocurrency, somehow I feel that I think the world is just running and buying and hoarding cryptocurrency. There's no way cryptocurrency could be the future of money if we are just hoarding it, because I guess the only way, if we do vision a future where tokens, cryptocurrency could be the future of money, I think we need to create a system which where you can transact with easily, like we transact in the or money, and maybe something which is not volatile. Because there are, these are the problems I think we need to solve. And I guess once we solve that, I'm sure we would want to move from the traditional money to the cryptocurrency, because the traditional money runs in a centralized organization. The governments print money at their wills and fancy. So there is, the future looks super exciting. But I think, we need to all come together, take concerted effort, and I think building behavior, raising awareness is such a key over there. Going back to my the early question, I mean, we spoke about decentralization. Do talk about that, because the fact remains, like I mentioned in the beginning of the conversation, that it sounds super awesome, that finally we will break away from the centralized world. But today, uh, uh, nothing seems to be decentralized when you talk about blockchain, and it's an old thing packaged in a new way, because even if you look at cryptocurrencies, I think it's around 80 or 90% of cryptocurrencies are held by whales.
Mm.
NFTs are also, I think, the same kind of numbers, around 80% plus are held by whales, just a couple of individuals in the world. So, when we talk about the inequality of a physical world, your digital world, which is the Web 3.0, or the blockchain, seems to be worse off. Even, like, for example, you create a blockchain company, the founders hold between 20 to 30% of the whatever the tokens, or the equity of the company. How do we create this entire, because the technology is really really potential, and the promise is there. Is there a way where we can actually make blockchain which is equitable for all?
Definitely, definitely. So there are 2 points that I want to take based on your questions. Talk about actually based on your questions. So the first point is, you mentioned about the structure that we have currently. Even when people are creating a new blockchain or a new project, they hold like 80% of the tokens, sell the tokens, and the effort is always about pushing the value of the token upwards. Just trying to create this demand and supply game, and trying to inflate the value of tokens. And that's a way, very traditional way of how things, of how projects have been evolving in the crypto space, the crypto and blockchain space. But we have been trying to do things differently, like in terms of loot NFT. For example, it's a project where you have tokens. Okay, so you have different kinds of tokens. One token to bid on auctions, one token to which is used in our metaverse, and none of these tokens are assigned to any of the founders. So we, as founders, we don't have any tokens, or no, any pre-allocated tokens. If we need to have tokens, we do as anyone else. So we need to do activities to earn the tokens, or we need to buy the tokens as anyone else. So I think that it depends on how people want to set up their projects, and again, it's just limited by what they want to do. If they want to make quick bucks, or they want to create a very long-term project where everyone is equal. And that's the whole point of blockchain and cryptocurrencies. Everyone needs to be equal, and that's what we try to do with projects such as Loot NFT. With the fact that we don't hold any tokens, we don't have any wallet where we hold the tokens. All the tokens are generated and assigned to everyone who actually contributes to the project. And I think that's one of the ways of doing it. I'm not saying that's the best way, but that's a different way, and I think that solves a lot of these issues. And secondly, I think that and this is something that you touched previously. It's about cryptocurrencies, and they are not really decentralized, in the sense that most of the cryptocurrencies are held by whales, and even NFTs. But one thing we need to remember is that cryptocurrencies, decentralization, blockchain, is not here to solve not the problem of income inequality, okay, but it does solve the problem of equality. Okay, let me explain. So income inequality, so we know what it is, and even now, the people with the most amount of funds or money, they will be the ones who are buying Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, or the most valuable NFTs. We can't change that. But what happens now is that with blockchain and cryptocurrencies, everyone play by the same rules. And this is very important because if you're in a system where the rules are different from based on who you are or what class of citizens or people you are, then you're always bound to fail. There's no way around that, and this is what has been happening with people. Rich people getting richer, poorer people getting people, because there are two set of rules for these people. And these rules are enforced, by central banks, by governments, and so on, all these people in power. Now, what happens if you have an alternative system where you have the basic same rules which apply to everyone, whether you are a homeless person or you have $10 billion. So it doesn't matter, you have to follow the same rules. So what will happen eventually is that this will kind of create an equal system for everyone. So in the future, in the long run, if you don't do something productive or create, not really creative, but productive, which brings value to other people, then you are bound to start losing your own values or value of your own assets and things like that. And the people who are actually building things, building value, creating community, helping people, these are the people who will actually, create more value and increase their, I won't say wealth, but the importance in this system. And yes, in many cases this will be represented by wealth in terms of how many cryptocurrencies they hold or NFTs. But the important thing is that it creates a level playing field for everyone, and um, that's the thing that is so disruptive.
If you had to paint a picture of blockchain, what do you think it's going to do to society and businesses in the next 10 years? Because the promise of blockchain, at least that it says that it's going to take the middleman out of the business. I don't see a single business which doesn't have a middleman. You name it, from Amazon to everyone is a middleman business. How does big tech survive, and where do you see blockchain in the next 10 years?
Um, I don't think that this will create, remove the middleman out of the equation. It's not so simple, but what it creates is again an alternative system, a choice. Now, when you want to send money to another country, to someone in another country, you need to go through banks and multiple banks in the meantime, and it can take a lot of time. So with Bitcoin, what you have is the same system. You still have the middleman, but the middleman in this case is the software. So, but you have an alternative system. And what will happen is that these are two extremes. And in the middle, there will be several versions of how things will evolve. And it will start with the elimination of a few, middlemen, intermediaries, until we arrive to a point, maybe or maybe not, where we don't have any middlemen. But that's very difficult, because at that point in time, everything will slightly evolve, okay, into something else. Like maybe we won't be needing middlemen in the traditional sense, but we'll need other types of middlemen who can actually, do other stuff, like creating, escrows and things like that, when you're doing e-commerce transactions on cryptocurrency. So you have all these different, versions of how things will evolve, and it's not, very straightforward. And to answer your question about how things will be in 10 years, honestly, my answer to this is I don't know. Why? Because things are moving so fast. I know what will probably happen the next 3 months, 6 months, even 1 year is very difficult. And we can see that, like with COVID situation, with the COVID pandemic, we can see that all planning has been thrown out of the window. There is no real planning. You're just trying to catch up and things like that. And with the current state of, of the, international policy, with what is happening within Russia and Ukraine. So all these things add a lot of different, uncertainties for me, and that's one of the things that I like about being in business, because you could do a lot of planning, but the only planning that stands, or probably the plans that you have for the next month, the next 2 months, and even that is, very subject to changes.
So yes, if there are entrepreneurs or students who want to understand and learn about blockchain and cryptocurrency, is there anything, books or some content that you would like to recommend, and where can people reach you?
So I have some contents on my own page. So I have even set up my own, personal branded token. So if you hold the tokens, you can have a one-on-one session with me. So and I use that internally with my employees also, so they can kind of buy perks from these tokens. But yeah, they can actually reach me on my Facebook page, LinkedIn page, and ask me anything. We have a group on Facebook where we have, I think, around 2,500 people who ask a lot of questions. And I mean, my aim is really just to connect people. I won't be able to answer all the questions, but I do know people who might be able to help you. So this is what I try to do. I mean, anyone can contact me on Facebook, LinkedIn, send me any questions they have. If they have specific questions about scams or things like that, I'm always happy to help. Or especially students. I mean, really, I tend to focus a lot on students if they have questions about careers, about which direction they need to take. This is where I come in. But what I can do is direct them to certain resources. One of the people that I follow a lot is Andreas Antonopoulos, and he has such a huge, database of content in terms of videos and books, and very specific about blockchain and cryptocurrencies. I think that's one of the like one of the persons that you can definitely follow to get more insight about blockchain and cryptocurrencies. I don't consider myself as an expert really, because I have so much I need to learn. But relatively speaking, I know maybe some more things about other people. But I think that the day you consider yourself an expert on blockchain and crypto and you stop learning, that's the end of it. So always learn about your things.
You create blockchain software as a service. So if there's some entrepreneurs who want to create a blockchain protocol, what's a generic thing? What's the cost and the timelines?
Obviously it depends on what they want to build. Like, for example, if they want to create a token, then that's very easy, and probably it's going to cost you a few dollars to create your own token. And most wallets will already accept these tokens. Now if you want to create a very complex decentralized autonomous organization, then of course that's kind of at the other spectrum of what we are talking. So yeah, traditionally speaking, blockchain development is relatively more expensive. And the reason behind this is that there are not a lot of companies doing this around the world. So you'll have companies, who are very good at developing software. But it's not only about developing software, it's about knowing how to develop these things. Because when we talk about blockchain, we have all these um, problems which are specific to the blockchain ecosystem, like scalability, like costs of transactions. So all these things come into play, and you need to find the right team or the right company who actually knows both of these aspects. So and getting the right people is actually very expensive. I think that right now, in terms of salary expectations, for example, for a software engineer who is experienced in blockchain, it's very high. It's as high as an AI engineer. So just to tell you that it will cost you a lot of money. But if you're an entrepreneur, you're starting, the best way, of course, to go around this would be to partner with someone who actually, from a technical background, and people from the technical background to join forces with someone who is in the business or who knows a certain sector very well, just to join forces. And I think that's one of the things that's very important. People need to work together. And that's one of the things that you mentioned also. I don't want people to be like Elon Musk or Bill Gates or things like that. No, I want them to be like a big group of people. Everyone is benefiting from it. Everyone becomes richer, everyone becomes poorer, but they're all together. And that's a big win-win for everyone. Instead of having one Elon Musk, we can have 1,000,000 1/10 of an Elon Musk. That's very good. That's good enough.
Lovely. Suyash, thank you. Really appreciate you taking time, being part of the podcast, and sharing your insight. And yes, that's so true. I think, you know, it's that billionaire thing. It's so overrated. I think, what really is needed. I think for us to kind of push is human well-being, happiness. And I think if we are happy, that means that obviously we are content and we have like a thing which is flowing in to keep our engine running, and I hope that if we take that attitude and we break out of our silos and collaborate with everyone, I think we'll be able to build a better place, I mean a better world where we join hands and create innovation. So thank you once again, Suyash, for being part of the podcast. Wish you and your team the very best, and to my listeners, if you like what you see and hear, then please press the subscribe button, and until next time, see you guys. Bye bye. Thank you, Suyash. Really appreciate this.
Thank you, Adi. Thank you.